Welcome back to Sentence Patterns with Mr. Orth. Today we're going to look at pattern 9. This is the use of repetition of a key term. The idea of using a key term here really helps you add emphasis by repeating something, but making intentional repeating of it. It does allow you some variety of ways to change up the word in order to create that emphasis and yet have the sentence flow smoothly. As usual, definitions, some things to fill in for notes, some scaffolding practice, and then create your own examples. Let's go to the slides. All right, sentence pattern 9, repetition of a key term. So our two terms here today are repetition, that's using the word or a phrase more than once. It's important to recognize that it could be an individual word or it could be an important phrase. And the key term, this is a word or a phrase which adds emphasis or significance that you find to be particularly important, that you want your audience to see or hear more than once, or see or hear in more than one way. The formula: subject, verb, and then a key term and a repeated key term. You don't have to have it twice or 3 times or 4 times. The key is that it's more than once. And this key term could be in multiple parts of the sentence. We just don't want to forget that you have a subject and verb in that particular sentence. You could have a comma with a repeated key term. You could have a dash for the repeated key term. You could have a fanboys between the term and the repeated version of that key term. But we do need something to connect to it, whether it's punctuation or words. Remember, in this formula, a word or phrase is used more than once to create emphasis. Also important to note, you can change the part of speech if necessary. If it's a noun, you could use both the singular and plural form of that noun in this particular formula. If it's a term where you need to use it once as an adjective and once as an adverb, you can do that. If you need to go from a noun form to a verb form, or change a different suffix, or possibly add a prefix to it and use the word as a root, you can do that as well. So it's possible to make variations to it, but you don't want to change it so much that it becomes a different word altogether. You want to keep that part of it repeated, otherwise we're really not doing this formula. An example: walking home alone, watching TV alone, and eating alone are signs of loneliness. So notice you've got alone, 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 but also it has relation to the word loneliness. It's not exactly the same, but it's tied to it. But the key is alone comes in the same place in the sentence. And here you have comma, comma, fanboys in use of that example. Another example: the quick step is a dance in which one quickly moves feet about the floor. So we have quick and quickly in there. That might feel redundant depending on how you're using it, and you don't want to, with any of these patterns, use them too often. But in particular, this pattern can be really helpful in order to develop that sense of, okay, that's an important part. Or to say, of the first part of the sentence, the quick step is a dance. The quick is the key part of it. And or using quickly as a way to indicate you're going to explain what that idea meant to begin with. I also love this quotation. It's an example of the sentence pattern, but it's also one of significance. All progress is precarious, and the solution of one problem brings us face to face with another problem. So you've got some good alliteration here with a blend of PR followed by a vowel, progress, precarious. But you also have the use of the word problem multiple times. And again, it could have been plural, could have been singular. You could have used problematic. But here, a solution to one problem brings us face to face with another problem. You could have, as a writer, you can choose to go with a synonym, so you don't use the same word twice. But if a word is significant, repeating it allows that word to take on added emphasis. It's kind of like in terms of learning and understanding things. If we hear something once and only once, we don't see it or do anything with it, we hear it only once, we usually retain or keep 5% of the stuff that we just hear one time only. If you hear it a second time, just hearing it a second time, nothing else has changed, you actually double that from 5% to 10%. Not a great percentage, but it does double it. So having a term used more than once allows things to stay more firmly in the mind of your reader or audience. Looking at your notes here. So again, you have your 3 sentences that's asking you to fill it in. In all cases, you've got the part that is similar, the part that is repeated, the key word piece of it, and you need to finish that thought as you go through it. And 3 examples again for pattern 9. Again, I strongly encourage you to go ahead and turn in your work as you finish the pattern, especially your own sentences, to get feedback on those before you go to the next sentence pattern.